In this lesson, we're going to be looking at a very important concept in math called factorising. Now, for this, we're going to need to remember how to find the highest common factor of two numbers. And remember, the question is, what is the highest number that goes into both of them? So, what's the highest number that goes into 12 and 16 without remainder? And the answer to that is 4, because 4 threes are 12 and 4 fours are 16. There's nothing higher that you can divide into 12 and 16. We'll also want to remember how we divide algebraic terms. Now, you're used to seeing these as fractions. We're just going to leave it as a normal divide sign here. First of all, because in the ones we're dealing with in this lesson, when we do the first number divided by the second one, it'll always be a whole number answer. And so you won't need to simplify them like you do fractions. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. The second number will always go directly into the first number. And with the letters, any letters on this side can be cancelled by any letters on the other side. So that x and that x cancel each other out. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. The x's cancel out, leaving just the a. So our answer is 2a. Now, factorising is the opposite of expanding. It puts brackets in. So we start off with something like this that has no brackets, and we end up with something that has brackets. And since it's the opposite of expanding, if I took this expression here and I expanded it and I went 3a times 2 and 3a times 3x, and I wrote down my answer underneath, we could expect there should be a way of getting from that back to this here, and there is. We're about to see what it is. So let's start with the expression 5p plus 10k, and we want to end up with an expression that's got brackets in it. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to rewrite this with the times sign for the moment. So we're going to make that 5 times p. And when I do this one here, I'm not actually going to write 10 times k, I'm going to write 5 times 2k. Because 5 times 2k would be 10k. Now, I haven't changed the value of anything here. I've just written it in a slightly different way, written my times sign there, and split the 10 into 5 times 2, which is still equal to 10. But notice here, I've got a 5 times here, and a 5 times there. I'm going to put that out the front. So I'm going to say that, right, I'm going to use that 5 now. And what that means is that I can now block out this 5 times and this 5 times, and I can look at what's left over. And so p plus 2k is what's left over. That now goes inside my brackets. Now, let's just double check that. We'll take our answer from here, so 5p plus 2k. Let's just expand it again and see what we get. So we're going to go 5 times p, which is 5p, and we're going to go 5 times 2k, which is 10k. Notice I got back to my original expression here. And notice also I really just did the opposite to what I did up here. See how there I found the 5 times in both of them, and I took it out the front. So I took it out of this one and put it out the front, and out of that one and put it out the front. Going the expanding, I'm putting it back into both of them because I'm multiplying it by both. So you can see they're just the opposite of each other, expanding and factorising. Now let's start off with another expression, and once again I'm going to separate it into timesing things. Don't worry about how I know what I'm doing here, just go with it for the moment. So 9 a.m. I'm going to separate that into 3a times 3m. That's still the same as 9 a.m. 3 times 3 is 9, and we got the a and the m. And this 6a, I'm going to separate that into 3a times 2. Notice once again, the 3a times 2 is exactly the same as 6a. But see what I've done again? 3a's here, 3a's here. Let's put that out the front. And then that means I don't need to have it here, and I don't need to have it here. So let's block it out. What's left over? 3m plus 2. That's what goes into my brackets there. So another quick check here. Let's expand that answer back out. Make sure we get back to 9 a.m. plus 6a. So 3a times 3m is indeed 9 a.m. 3a times 2 is indeed 6a. And notice once again, here I was realizing that there's a 3a times in both of them, and so I took it out the front. And here, when I'm doing the opposite, I'm timesing by 3a. I'm putting it back in to each one of them. Now let's see if we can do this all in one nice clean action here. And so let's get up the our expression here, and we're going to factorize. We're going to put it into the brackets, but to do that we have to work out what goes outside the brackets. That's pretty much the most important thing, really. Work out what goes outside the brackets, and to do that we are going to have to look for the highest common factor of the two terms. So that means the numbers, what's the highest thing that goes into 6 and also into 10? And the answer to that's 2, because 2 3s are 6 and 2 5s are 10. And we also have to look for letters. Are there any letters in this term and also that term there? And there is. There's a T here and there's a T there. So it was 2 and it was T. So that's going to go out the front of our brackets. Now there won't always be a letter necessarily in both of them, and there may not be a number either, because if nothing went into both of the numbers except for 1, then you wouldn't have a number out the front. But you've always got to look for both. And now we've got to work out what goes here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to divide this 2t into the 6t. So in other words, we're working out what's 6t divided by 2. And if I did that, the t's disappear, because see, there's one on this side and one on that side. And so the question is just, what's 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So I put a 3 there. And now to work out what goes here, I go, well, what's 10tm divided by 2t? So notice each time I'm doing this divided by what's out the front. And that's how I got that one. Now I'm doing this divided by what's out the front. And so 10tm divided by 2t. So the t's disappear because there's one on both sides. The m will still be there. And what's 10 divided by 2? That's 5. So that means we got 5 and that m. And so that is what goes there. And so that is my factorized form of this expression. It felt like it took a long time, but you'll get a lot quicker at it. Now, if you're having trouble with the division to work out these numbers here, you don't necessarily need to do it. You can do it by multiplying, almost like a fill in the gaps thing. You can go, well, I know this number here, when I multiply it by 2t, needs to get 6t. So what does the number have to be? And it's 3, because 2 times 3 is 6. And same thing here, I know when I multiply that by 2t, I have to get 10tm. So what does this have to be to make that happen? Well, first of all, it has to be 5, because 2 times something has to get 10, and the something is 5. And we've already got a t here, so there's our t, but we don't have an m, so the m must be down there. So that now when I go 2t times 5m, I'll get 2tm. And of course you can always check your answers just on the fly by expanding that back out. If it expands back out to your original expression, then you know you did it right. So some examples. Let's find the highest common factor first of all of just these two terms. So we're not factorizing here, we're just looking for the highest common factor to practice that. And so I don't need to really write the question down or anything, I'm just going to go straight to my answer here. So the numbers, what's the highest thing that goes into 24 and 32? And that would be 8. 8 3s are 24, 8 4s are 32. And now also, which letters are common in both of these? And only the X is, isn't it? You've got the X there, you've got the X there. This one doesn't have a Y, this one doesn't have a K, so I can't use either of those two letters. So my number was 8, my letter was X, so the answer is just 8X. That's the highest common factor of those two terms. Now in the next one we're going to do some actual factorising, and so the first thing we do is we write down the question. And we are actually going to go straight to our answer, but just like with expanding, you always work down when you're factorising. And so we've got 5a plus 10y, and we want to find the highest common factor of 5a and 10y. So start with the numbers. What's the highest thing that goes into 5 and also into 10? And it's 5. 5 obviously goes into 5, and it goes twice into 10. And what about letters? Are there any letters on both sides? There's not, is there? There's only an A here and a Y there. There's no common letters. And so that means outside our bracket is just going to go 5. And so if I've got 5A and I divide it by 5, 5 divided by 5 is 1, and A is still going to be there because A divided by, well, there's no A there, so that means A is going to be in my answer. And so it was 1A, but remember we don't write down the 1, we just write down the A. Of course, remember another way of thinking about it is what do I need to multiply by 5 to get to 5A, and of course it's just A. And now we can do the second one. So 10y divided by 5, 10 divided by 5 is 2, And again, there's no y down here to cancel out that one, so it stays in my answer. And once again, you can think 5 times something is 10y. What's the something got to be? And it's got to be 2y. However you work it out, it's fine, as long as when you do this one divided by that, you get back to what you started with up here. Anyway, that's our final answer there. Now in the next one, we're again going to be factorising, and so let's write the question down. Let's look for the highest number that goes into 8 and also into 6, and that's 2. And let's see if there's any common letters. And there is. There's a y there, and there's a y there. And so it was 2 and y. So let's put it out the front. And now let's work out this number here. 8xy divided by 2, or you could think of it as 2y times something gets 8xy. No matter which way you think about it, you will end up with the answer 4x. And then again, 6y divided by 2y, tells us what goes there, or alternatively 2y times something gets 6y. Either way, you'll end up with the answer of 3, and that's the final answer for that one as well. There's usually just write down the question and answer directly underneath. Just a quick note here, if I had this expression here, 3x plus x, there is no number that is common because there's no number over here at all for starters. And so I don't need to worry about the numbers, but there is a letter. There's an x here and there's an x here. And so let's put the x out the front, and then when we do our brackets, then inside the first one, well, obviously I just have to times the x by 3 in order to get 3x, and so there's the 3 there. And then what do I put here? Because the x is already here. There's an x there, there's an x there. I wouldn't put anything there, would I? But remember, there is actually a number out the front of this. We just don't write it down. There's a 1 there, and so that means we put that 1 down here. And so when you are taking out the entire term out the front, you don't leave nothing, you put a 1 there to indicate, well, there was one of those. X times 1 is what equals x. It's not x times nothing equals x, it's x times 1 equals x. Just another very quick note, if we had a minus sign there, when we factorise it, there's a minus sign in the brackets. That probably would have been pretty straightforward to you, but just wanted to make sure it was clear because both the examples had pluses there. So it can be a bit of a tricky concept, but let's give it a go with some practice questions. Remember to pause the video. And there's the solutions we need for those questions. So looking at the first one, I wrote down the question and I started looking for my highest common denominator. So the highest thing that goes into 6 and 12 is 6 itself. 6 goes into 6 once and it goes into 12 twice. And there's no letter at all here, so that means I know there's no letters to worry about, so I just put the 6 out the front. And so then I had to think, well, for this number here, what do I multiply by 6 to get to 6? Or what's 6 divided by 6? Either way, the answer is 1. So I put a 1 there. Remember, you don't leave it blank. Something's got to go there. And if you took this whole thing and put it out the front, then a 1's going to end up there. And then I went, well, how many times does 6 go into 12m? Or alternatively, what do I have to multiply by 6 to get 12m? The answer was 2m. And then that's it. I just close my bracket. End of question. In the second one here, again, I wrote out the question to start with, and again, I looked for my highest common factor with my numbers. And 4 and 12, this time it was 4 that goes into 4 and 12. It goes into 4 once, of course, and 12 3 times. But this one's also got a letter. The y appears there, and so I had to take it out at front as well. So 4y goes out the front. And so my first spot in the brackets, 4y times something gets 4ay. And so that's obviously just got to be a, because it's the only thing that's missing there. In the 4 and the y are already there. It's just the a that's not there. And then for our second one here, we went 4y times something had to get me 12y, and I have to make sure I put the minus there because there's a minus there. And so 4y times by 3 is what gets me 12y. Here's a couple more practice questions if you want to have another go. Remember to pause the video. And there's the solutions to those ones. And that brings us to the end of the lesson.